Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the Community Redevelopment Agency meeting for August 3rd, 2016.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency, August 3rd, 2016, approximately 6:05. Will you please join Councilman Montanaro for a moment of silence and the pledge?
Will you join me for a moment of silence, please? And the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time, open up agenda item 3, citizens' comments. This is for non-agenda items. Moving on to agenda item 4, members' comments.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, executive director's report.
Mayor, I don't really have a report tonight, but I did want to, Chairman, but I did want to ask the board, there are some meetings where we're talking about pretty non-legal issues, and we have an attorney firm that drives all the way from Orlando. Sometimes we have meetings that last maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So I was wondering if you all wanted to give me some discretion on whether or not they have to drive all the way over here for meetings like budgets or sign approvals, especially if they've already reviewed the agreements and found no issues.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll do that in the future. Okay, thank you. Because right now it was kind of expected for them to be at the meetings all the time, so I really couldn't tell them not to come. And,
right.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Is that report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 6, discuss, take action on agreement with Circle Remount for beach access signs. John?
Well, good evening, everyone. We've got a real exciting project that the CRA Advisory Board has been working on. Several months back, the board started working on a way to identify one of our greatest resources here in Satellite Beach, and that's our beach accesses. Through the discussions, we went from cookie-cutter wayfinding signs to something more than that. And then we found Fritz over here, Fritz Van Eden, and he has been with the Fusner Center for the better part of 4 years as a staff artist, teaching art as well as having numerous displays. Fritz is an internationally recognized artist in several disciplines. Sculpture seems to be one that he's exceptionally good at. The art that we're and that's truly what we're talking about here is no longer a wayfinding sign, but bringing art to the community and identifying those accesses in a very unique way. It's really created a lot of buzz in the community, especially since the project kind of morphed into also paying homage to a lot of the original names of some of these accesses. And how we go about incorporating it into the art, we're not really absolutely sure yet. We've looked at maybe QR codes and using Josh on our sustainability board creating a website. So you kind of zap the little placard and it gives you a lot of information. An example of that would be like the beach access north of Ramada. It's called RC's Beach, Roll Castle. A lot of people don't know that. But if you've been here for any period of time, you've probably heard that name around. And this is a way to provide some historical information on these beach accesses. So again, the surf riders and several organizations and old timers like myself are really excited about that aspect of it as far as recognizing these local names. Fritz is probably more known internationally than he is nationally, as far as what I can tell, and his work is phenomenal. I have seen his work up at the Fusner Center, and it's exceptional. So he's met with us on several occasions where we've kind of focused our ideas onto what we'd like him to create. And the binders that we passed around are some examples of some of his drawings that, to give you kind of an idea of where he's going with things. The board has gotten pretty close to selecting the first 5 locations. We chose as the first 2 locations where we had existing posts already, and that was at DeSoto and Grant, because there was quite a bit of money spent on those, and we'd like to try to incorporate that, especially once we got away from the fact that we weren't going to do something cookie cutter, that everything had to look the same. We started looking at this as art, and art is unique in itself, so every location is going to be unique. These 2 particular ones that are on the first 5, they will be more of a design of a, where we used to have the fabric banners. Now we're looking at some metal, I think it's stainless steel, that's plasma cut, so it's going to weather the storms, it's not going to fade or get tattered, and it's going to be extremely resilient. And the wind will actually move through it, being plasma cut. The remaining ones will be self-standing signs, somewhat of a sculpture. You might see some examples in there of like Magellan, one of our streets. You can imagine like a tall sail ship, something on that order. On the flip side of that, we have Grant and Lee, which you probably won't see a bust of the president on. So they're not necessarily tied to that beach access, but when possible, they will be themed either to the location or to the beachside environment. And with nothing further to say on that one, Chris Van Eden's here if you have any questions for him. Oh, by the way, the agreement has been vetted through the CRA attorney, and there was minor changes. Those changes are shown as a strike-through in that agreement, and it's ready to go now.
Thank you very much. We have a member of the Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board here. If you have anything to add to it? We've been working on it for some time.
David Schechter, Member Committee. It's really exciting to tie in with the old, we're looking at ways trying to sign the grant with the street names, and that was one stage we went through. And then somebody comes with the idea, well, why don't we recognize the old names of them? People wouldn't know that, and it's a nice time to the past and into the future for people to learn about it, and especially the idea of having the symbol there so you could actually find out about that one and about the whole thing. We wanted to recognize the beach access. We've been working hard for 30 or 40 years to get those there and keep them there, again, for the people who can use them here. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity, especially with the art side of it too. It really lends another flavor to it that the committee, I think, is really big. They spent a lot of time last night deciding what this looks like go here, this one would go here, this one would go here. So they're really excited about it. I'm not an art guy, I'm not a plant guy either, but they're really excited about it, and it looks like a really an opportunity to let people know where they are within the budget you've already set aside, and still recognize the art and the past guys. So it's just exciting to this group from my standpoint. Any questions you have for me, just let me know.
Has anybody selected the design of the first access point?
Yes, that was at your last meeting, correct?
Right. We recommended, was it 5 of them?
Yeah, that was, we already selected the first 5 locations, and I understand at the last meeting, which I was not at,
Yes.
that you selected the first 5 renderings for those locations.
That's our recommendations, yes.
Yes, they did at that meeting.
Did we see them?
Not yet.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, what you're going to see are concepts. We're giving them a certain amount of liberty to create within those concepts.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Can you introduce yourself for the minutes so she has your name on the record?
Sorry,
Can you introduce yourself for the minutes so she has your
Yes.
name for the record?
I'm Fritz van Eden, and I've worked for 40 years for the museum and art classes and shows and things like that. Okay. And last month we picked 5 designs. This is one of them.
John, can you do that for him so he can stay on the mic?
Okay, even better, yeah.
And sir, what material would that be made out of?
That will be stainless steel and corten steel. Corten steel is steel that only rusts one time and doesn't deteriorate, just, and paint. We put color in some of them.
So that's an all-metal sculpture?
It's an all-metal sculpture. And we were going to use glass but the stainless steel, it's mirror steel, it's like a mirror. If you do glass, we're afraid it's going to get damaged or something will happen to it. So we use the stainless, and it's also better for, I got the whole, okay, the Magellan one.
And to give you an idea, New Smyrna Beach has metal banner signs that have worked really well for them in terms of maintenance, because like with canvas here, we have to replace them constantly because of the wind. And so on the beach side, it works better sometimes to have the metal instead.
This is Magellan or
Magellan.
Yeah, Magellan or version of that.
And these will all be metal sculptures?
All be metal sculptures, yes.
Shell.
And that is, yes, that is a shell, that's a freestanding on a concrete post.
Shell Street?
That's nice.
By the way, that's pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm. I like the manatees.
Manatees. And we have 14 locations, so
I love the
you
manatees.
may see some of these again, the Dolphins and other teams.
Wait a minute, what are you showing me?
Just some different concepts.
I know, but where?
Oh, I don't know, Fritz, we haven't selected a location.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just a concept.
Have they been accepted by any committee, or
The first 5 concepts have been selected.
is this one of them?
This is one of them, yes.
That was?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know what location this was?
To be honest, I don't remember.
Okay.
Yes, it was, but we don't know where.
All right. And that's the same for both sides?
I think those are different.
I can't hear you.
Those are different.
I mean, are both of them concepts that have been accepted on both sides?
Yeah, it's only this one here. Yeah, sorry. Only this one here was accepted, and the reason being, if you look at this one, it's a banner. And there's only 2 locations that have banners, and that's DeSoto and Grant. So this was just one of those concepts that he put out there. That one there is the one that will be at one of the locations.
What is this?
Fish. 3 dolphins going through a wave. And again, this is a very rough sketch. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And that'll be a sculpture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
The dolphins are not accepted yet, we didn't show him, they happen to be on the backside. So, this is another one that was accepted,
This was.
yes.
So this one was accepted. Again, I don't know which street it will tie to. Since they're not specific art to a street, just generally speaking, you will see something similar to this out there, one of the locations. The birds.
No, it's nice.
Here's another one with birds. These birds will be cutouts, so you can look through them, and then parts of them will be welded back in different angles, so it's not flat anymore.
This is selected as one.
This is selected as one of them, yes. And it will be
Also selected.
stainless steel, corten steel, and open areas.
So this will have a certain amount of three-dimensional quality to it, because this has somewhat of a three-dimensional quality to it as a banner because of the cutouts and then reapplying, so you'll have that staggered image. So this one should look really cool.
But right now, there's 5 that are,
Yes.
if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, the other night, they did 5.
Yes.
The first 5.
The intent was to not have Fritz have to come back after everyone is created, because some of them he's working on simultaneously. So we decided that we would give him 5 at a time, and plus it allows us to go back and check and just adjust everything that's going on.
So when these are done, does Public Works put these up? Or that They would be installing them?
Yes, we did that to save on cost.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this is, public art, basically. So we moved from a signage program to a public art program, really, and so, we're getting a deal with this, I have to say. I've seen programs like this cost 4 or 5 times the amount, so this is really a public service that this artist is, providing to us here.
Yeah, we were very fortunate that Fritz lives in our backyard, and he's been very gracious to work within our existing budget to provide us this art at these locations.
Thank you. Further questions?
Yeah, this agreement is approving these specific designs or what?
No, actually, I'll say okay. The agreement is for delivery, fabrication and fabrication and design of the 14 locations. We will be picking them up and installing them. So the agreement, what it is Fritz is he's an independent artist, and he's had a long-term relationship with Circle Redmond, who I think is based out of Melbourne. They've been around since the 1800s, so a long-established business. They do some amazing work themselves. They do a lot of work in glass, huge projects, where they make walkways and walls and just all kinds of stuff. Well, Fritz and Fred who owns Circle Redmond, they have a long-term relationship where he basically gives Fritz the creative liberty to go there, use his designers, his engineers, his equipment to fabricate these pieces of art.
So if you look at your agreement here, the proposed cost to design and fabricate 10 to 12 beach access street signs, 5 signs for this coming year, and then 7 signs for 16-17, and that's in your budget. Okay.
And is it the CRA advisory board that's approving the designs?
Yes.
Not the council?
No, I wouldn't bring that to council, unless you all wanted us to.
I would think that it would be something the council should have a say in.
Rather than
The council or the CRA?
It's the CRA advisory board.
Right, it's coming to the CRA agency for approval, and it needs to go.
I mean the CRA, sorry.
Well, it's coming here. This is what we're voting on tonight, then.
Are we voting to approve these specific designs?
No, what you're voting on is to provide authorization for the executive director to enter into that agreement.
Right.
The working board, your CRA advisory board, would be the one that interfaces on a regular basis with Fritz and approves the art.
And so we are not approving any specific design?
No.
And that's up to council. You have an advisory board that does this stuff for you, and that's what their job is, so certainly we can bring that back to you if you wanted, but we thought that was their...
I don't recall anything coming out of the advisory board that hasn't been brought to the CRA for final approval.
I was under the impression, David, maybe you could help me here. I was under the impression the other night that they picked the 5 locations and picked the 5 designs. They laid them out on the table and everybody picked them, and they said these were the 5 designs. Am I mistaken? Please.
David Schechter again. You can approve if you want. My analogy was back when we were doing the sign codes, and we had and we had several criteria that people would have to come in and meet. We didn't bring all those to you. Staff and we were designated to go ahead and do it within the guidelines you approved. Now, if you want to approve them, it's your choice. You're in charge. We were just doing that to make it easier and less time on you guys. But and when we're enthusiastic about it, there would be a recommendation to you if you want them that way. But it's your choice.
Thank you. What I sit on liaison to that, and I've seen the work they've done to it and how they're going about picking these. And I really feel we have really good input from that board. And I'm not saying my vote to like or dislike is any different than the members of that board. I mean, the stuff is gorgeous. They've put a lot of work in this, and they've gotten a lot of input from different organizations within it, the Surfrider guys, the names, and so forth. So I think from that, you know, I feel comfortable with what that board is doing, because I think art is kind of subjective too, whether you like it or not like it. And, you know, that's a pretty good working board there that we've appointed those people. So I feel comfortable with what they're doing.
I would support whatever that board recommends, because they are doing the legwork, and I appreciate that. But I just think that the final say, the final blessing should be coming from from the agency.
I think I'd have a tendency to agree. I mean, we are the ultimate deciders of spending the money, and we're looking at spending $64,000. I wouldn't have any problem with the recommendations either, but I think we are ultimately the ones that would approve the recommendations that they bring to us. I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with them, but I think it's incumbent upon us as the CRA to approve the funding of them.
Well, that's what we're doing here, is approving the funding.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, hold on.
Go ahead.
Let me just make sure.
I'd like to move that we authorize the executive director to sign the agreement with Silver Redmond, and that we approve the 5 designs that have been recommended by the CRA Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Board Member Gott, second by Board Member Montanaro. Let me ask you a question on what you said, the 5 signs. The 5 is for this year. So do you want to include all the signs in it so we don't have to come back and redo it? Because there's 5 this year, correct?
Right, and what I was going to suggest, which may give you a certain level of comfort, is once we start working through this first 5, let's come back to you as an advisory board and just give you an update. By then, I think you'll actually have some of this work to look at, and if you feel that you would like to have more creative control over the next ones, then you have that opportunity.
I just want to make sure, to save time and effort, that we don't have to repeat what we're doing.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make this complicated. It's just that that's an advisory board, and by definition, they don't have a final enactment say. But certainly, you know, we can support what they're doing.
Well, I'm fine with that. The only other thing I want to say is that I've never had a chance to meet Fritz, but I know of his work through Linda Page in Indian Atlantic. And I got Linda, once I talked to Linda, I got Linda in contact with Courtney. And Courtney, thank you for all the follow-up with all of this. It's worked out really well. But nice to meet you, sir, and
Thank you.
thank you for being here.
Before we take the vote, let me open it up. The agenda items set for public hearing.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. By the way, one of my sculptures is at the museum wall.
You got to get to the mic, thank you.
I'm sorry. One of my sculptures against the museum wall. It's the Corten steel and stainless steel. It's 22 feet tall, and that's the material we are talking about.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comment? Hearing none, bring it back to the board for any further board comment. Lenore?
I have none.
Vice Mayor Breimer?
Yes.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Breimer? Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Lorraine Dodd? Yes. Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, staff. Moving on to agenda item 7, adoption of minutes from June 1, 2016, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 1st, 2016 minutes as submitted.
I have a motion by Board Member Montanaro, second by Vice Chair Breimer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lenore?
Lorraine Dodd?
Yes.
Vice Chair Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Any further business before the board? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, I'll call, once it gets in, and I'll let you know when